Hello everyone, and welcome to another one of our videos. Please take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy.
Teachers, what is the most disturbing thing a student has ever done? At the first school that I taught at, I had a girl come up to me one day and say, "Robert has a knife." I pulled Robert into the hallway to talk with him about it. He said that he didn't have a knife, but did have a box cutter. I asked him why he had it and he said, "Because I'm tired of Chris." Chris was an annoying suck-up but wasn't really bad or mean to other kids. I asked Robert what he was planning on doing to Chris. He said, "I am going to get him in the bathroom." I usually took the class to the restroom after lunch, but I didn't that day because they were being rowdy in the hallway. I took Robert to the office, and after hearing the story, the principal chewed him out. She then called Robert's mom, and she chewed him out on the phone. Here's the kicker. Robert knew that he was in serious trouble. He knew that what he was planning was wrong. He just didn't care. Not in a false bravado macho type was. He literally didn't care. I hate to predict a kid's future criminal endeavors, but that kid scares me. By the way, Robert was 8 years old at the time. I am a speech therapist. I had a kid with oppositional defiance disorder, language impairment, reactive attachment disorder, and he honestly scared the crap out of me as much as I tried to love him. We tried to include him in social activities, but he would do completely unpredictable things like push someone off the top of the ropes course, bite his finger and smear blood on his classmates, etc. He once gave the psychiatrist a concussion by headbutting her while she was trying to roll him into his weighted blanket, and has broken and punched through windows and drywall before. So many tears shed trying to get through to the little man. I'm so fearful for the type of teen or adult he will become. Recently had one of my students tell a pregnant teacher that he wanted to punch her in the stomach. Another student said, "You can't do that, she's pregnant." The first student then said, "That's the point. These are 5th graders. This is also in a school that rarely has behavior problems, so this was quite a shock." Someone replied, "Something similar happened to me when I was pregnant with my first. A student told me he was going to make me lose the baby. It's the only time I've really ever flipped out on a student in my 7 years of teaching." That student had some serious issues, though, and by the end of the school year I was the only teacher he would talk to about the things that went on in his life, bouncing from foster home to foster home, abuse, etc. He left a letter on my desk at the end of the year saying that my unborn child was incredibly lucky to have me as a mom. I ugly cried at my desk when I read it. I teach 4-year-olds part-time, which means I usually do art and recreation in the afternoons. There's this girl in my class, let's call her Mary, who is a tiny terror that frequently runs around making other kids cry. Her moves are very calculated: a hair pull, kicking a toy over, snatching art. She waits until the other child is crying before she relents. She never wants the toy, just the reaction. On the other hand, this boy, Jim, is her polar opposite and often the voice of reason in my class. He's a gentle giant, the biggest kid in preschool. He shares happily, is kind during playtime, and is probably the most thoughtful human I've ever met. Well, one day during outside time, Mary kept targeting Jim. He was pretty good-natured the whole time. She would snatch a shovel from him and he would respond kindly by saying, "It's okay, you can have it, toys are for sharing," stuff like that. Remember those giant red and yellow cars the kids sit in and pedal with their feet? The yard has 5 for the kids to share. Mary was leaning against a wall, and Jim pushing one of those cars. The kids like running around with them, so that was normal. Jim was probably a good 30 feet away from her when he suddenly started accelerating. He was aimed like a homing missile, pointing straight at poor clueless Mary. Genuinely believed he would turn away at the last minute or stop. I was wrong. He slammed the car right into Mary, effectively crunching her against the wall. I'll never forget how long it took for her to inhale. I was shaking. I thought he cracked her ribs. Her entire back was bruised, but thankfully no further damage. I was too shocked to be angry. After passing Mary to my co-teacher, I turned to Jim, who was sulking in the corner, and asked, "Why did you do that?" He just shrugged and very calmly said, "I was just trying to take care of our problem. 100% scared of this kid now." I was a supervisor for a special program that involved about 20 students that were expelled from other schools. Most of them were known gang members. The program had a strict no bandana policy. One day Kid 1, male 16, stole Kid 2's, male 17, cigarettes while Kid 2 was in an office session about his homework. We found out later that Kid 1 thought it was hilarious and was laughing about it. Kid 2 goes for his smokes during break and can't find them. He proceeds to flip out and start screaming about how he's going to mess someone up. No one admitted it. We de-escalated the situation and later took him to the store to buy a new pack for him. A few days go by and Kid 1 gets ratted out by another student who was in the same gang as Kid 2. We didn't know any of this was going on at the time. One afternoon during a group session, we would have them sit in a circle during some lessons, instead of at desks. Out of nowhere these two boys jump up and yell "Yo Kid 1" as they literally run at him and proceed to beat him up right in front of everyone until the staff broke it up. All three got expelled after that and I have no idea what happened to them, although I can imagine some scenarios based on how committed they were to gang life. I worked with another group of 5 underage siblings at the first school board who were all HIV positive, but it was their legal right to have their medical status kept private. The siblings would regularly threaten other students, hit them, fight them, etc., and yes, other students' skin was broken and blood potentially exchanged on occasion. I had to tell the parents to treat their injured kids as if they had potentially contracted any number of unknown viruses or bacteria, as per the school board administration rules. I had a girl who couldn't be in the classroom and had to be on a one-to-one with me at all times. But she couldn't be in the classroom because she was extremely violent and deliberately stabbed another child in the eye with a colored pencil, then laughed about it. The other child had to be hospitalized. When we asked her why she did it, she started laughing again and said, "Because I wanted to." She would also randomly attack kids on the playground and in the halls. When they put her on a one-to-one with me and she couldn't do that anymore, she started attacking me on a daily basis. I used to teach at an alternative high school. So a lot of my students were kids on probation, kids from areas with a lot of gang violence. Many of them had issues related to the fact that they were born drug addicted. That kind of thing. I had a student who I had worked hard with to build a good rapport. One Friday, he looked me in the eyes and told me, completely calmly, that I shouldn't come to work on Monday. He kept telling me that he didn't want me to be there Monday. When I finally pressed him for why I should not come to work Monday, he told me that he was going to blow this things up. I said, "You know I need to report this, right?" He told me to do what I had to do. He was arrested right out of my classroom and I had to be interviewed by the police. It was honestly really traumatic. I ended up calling out Monday, even though I knew nothing was going to happen because my anxiety went through the roof. I called out a lot after that and found a new job shortly after. But I still have a great deal of compassion for that student. I think about him often. I hope he's okay. I taught third graders for a year, so the kids were around 9 years old. It was a couple of days before summer holidays and I asked the kids what they were going to do during summer. I got to this one girl and asked her what she was going to do and she happily announced she was going to Germany with her sister and parents. I asked her what she was going to do in Germany and she said she was going to ask people if they have €1. I was like, what? And she proceeded to sit down on the floor with a really sad look on her face, stuck her hand out to me and said, "See you like this. Please miss, do you have just €1? I'm hungry." She didn't really see anything wrong with this. I'm pretty sure she didn't really understand what she was doing. I was quite alarmed by this so I informed the other school staff. It turned out that even though they weren't actually poor, her parents were regularly taking their 2 daughters to Germany over summer where they would make them beg for money in the streets. I heard the girl and her sister got pulled out of school shortly after that, but I don't know what happened after since I don't work there anymore. I was a preschool teacher at the time. I was doing group time, singing songs, reading a book, and all the kids were sitting on the floor. One left to blow her nose. She came back, walked through the crowd of kids to get back to her spot, grabbed a quiet girl's hair, and kept walking. My assistant thought it was a mistake, but the girl kept walking. She even bent at the knees and yanked while the poor long-haired girl screamed. That girl had no remorse and would be so unpredictable. She would look in your eyes, but right through them. It was a stressful year. One of my students, high school, came in one day and handed me a vinyl figurine from one of her favorite bands. She said I could have it and I, not used to random gifts, asked her why she was giving it to me. She said something along the lines of she didn't need it anymore. I thanked her and told her to have a good day. The following day she killed herself. It immediately became clear why she didn't need the figurine anymore. That still bothers me. In retrospect, I knew this act was a sign that she was contemplating and preparing for suicide, but it didn't occur to me at that moment and that haunts me. I hope she found peace. I taught college. I taught mostly seniors and grad students. I had to essentially sit with a disturbed student in my office and keep him talking as campus police searched his office and workstation. The kid made threats against other students and the students waited to tell me until it got really bad. When I intervened, he started threatening me. Like on my personal cell phone, personal email, stuff like that. My husband told me to tell campus police, which I did, but everyone told me there was nothing really they could do. The chair of my department couldn't even kick him out of my class because he was enrolled through a different department. His home department was slow to do anything. I called a meeting with him to ostensibly talk things out, but I had told my TA to search his stuff. My TA immediately called campus police, who went with him to search those areas. They found some stuff in his office, enough to kick him out of school, but nothing that rose to criminality. Well, that is until he brandished the gun that was in his backpack. This happened as he stepped out of my office and my TA and campus police stood there. I watched the campus cop literally tackle him off his feet. I had a 5th grader who I swore was sociopathic. His father had deported the boy's mother because he wanted a new wife, if that gives some context to the living situation. The boy would say very aggressive sexual things, moon students on the bus, etc. But the predatory behavior was the worst. He'd wait as students left the room so he could be next to last, turn off the line and backhand the last kid in line, often his own cousin who was his most common victim. I had to keep an eye on him constantly. He'd also steal electronics and things from his friends, or force his cousin to do so in case they were caught. CPS was involved. This was almost a decade ago, so I'm not sure what happened to him.
Congratulations, you've made it to the end. We want to thank you again for giving us a few minutes of your time, and we wish you have a great rest of your day, night, or whenever you're watching this. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe. It really does help us a lot. That's it from me. Roll the outro.